the power that we have, and that's because we have an educational path, we have coaches, we have methodology, like with the technical periodization. I mean, we have so many differentiators in Portugal that it's very strange for me. Why can't we be part of these MCOs? Why we're not attracted? Hi there, welcome to Beyond the Ball. My name is Nuno Samarra and I'm here today to bring you two themes. So the first one is governance. And what I mean by governance, we're going to look at different perspectives. Governance sometimes seems a stronger word and something a little bit harder to explain. And my job here is try to simplify things the best that I can. So governance is simply the way things are done. So understanding the things this way, we're going to have two perspectives. The first one is within your organization. Of course, we're going to have the perspective of how to organize things that it becomes easier on the longer term to evaluate things, to monitor things, to assess if things are being done or not, who's responsible, who's accountable within your department. So I'm going to speak about organizational charts. And that hopefully brings a little bit more clarity within the governance, because now we know that clubs are not anymore just community brands or community driven. They can become an important asset within not only your community, but also national, on the national perspective. And you even can make partnerships with other clubs, other continents, other countries. And that brings me to the second theme, which will be MCOs or multi-club ownerships. So let's talk about governance. Governance, as mentioned before, simply way to understand it is the way things are done. There are three key pillars, I would say, that will help you to understand governance in a better way. And those are transparency, accountability, and decision making. Why is this so important? So first, looking at the world's landscape of football, we have different levels. So we understand that FIFA is the major stakeholder and they have a broader role. They need to oversight, football on the top level. And normally on business terms, we understand and we speak about three, I would say, verticals where we can impact football. The first one being competitions, of course, then the second regulations, and then the third is going to be development, so development programs. And this can be for players, coaches, wherever you want to understand. Of course, FIFA, the competition side would be the World Cups, everything that you know from football, men, women, beach soccer, wherever you take it. And then they're also going to have the regulations along with the IFAB. They're going to understand the laws and rules for the game, but then they also have development programs where they need to implement it. Of course, taking into consideration they have a broader responsibility and they need to see it really from the top. They then need to work with the second level, which is going to be the confederations, just below FIFA. And then they need to work along with the confederations and trying to implement strategies to develop the game. And when you understand the levels and you think about FIFA and then you think about confederations, then you think about the national FAs, and then you think the national FAs, they're also going to have exactly the three same verticals. They either go for competitions, regulations, and development. If you think about this, maybe sometimes in competitions, they're going to have, for the professional leagues, they're going to have a third party. So they're going to have a new institution that is going to take care of their own professional leagues. But even the FA, even though they don't organize, they are not responsible for the leagues, the professional leagues, they might be responsible for the youth. They certainly are for the youth and the national team. So different layers require different responsibilities. They require different different roles, different strategies, but they also mean that everyone is working for the same thing, which is developing football. So when you think about this on the worldwide landscape of football, so now how can we implement this on your club, your organization? It's not that hard if you think about it. The pillars are exactly the same. So you need to be transparent, you need to be accountable, and everyone needs to know the framework for the decision making to be easier. So when you think about this, we think about organizational charts. Organizational charts, they are a tool that when they are aligned, and they need to be aligned with the vision and the mission, and we're going to speak about this maybe on the next episode. I'm going to speak about business plans and strategic planning. If you have an organizational chart where everyone is completely aware of what are their roles, first of all, what are their objectives for that specific department, and who they report to, how they can become accountable for what kind of work they are accountable for, what is their objective within that department, what is the strategies that you're going to be implementing, how and who is going to monitor these developments. So when you have this relationship, I'll give you an example. So let's consider that we're talking about the scouting department. Responsibility is to go and try to find new players. For those new players, and they have already a profile of player that they need to bring to the table, because the profile then will merge with the vision, will merge with the mission of the club, will merge also with the technical department. So now, because the technical staff, they know exactly the players that they want, but also the board, and that's where the vision comes, they already have a cultural perspective of the club, a broader image than probably the technical staff, the coaches, etc. Because the coaches, they can come and go, and they're not from the region, or you can even have an expat coach. But the club knows signing a player for Atletico Madrid is completely different than signing a player for Barcelona. So taking this in consideration, and even if the coach comes on the field and they know already what kind of player they are looking for, the scouting then, we already start to connect a few elements here. So the scouting now, they need to be accountable to the technical staff, but maybe you need the sports director, which is in relationship with the board. So they already have some kind of connections here, and this is where the organizational chart comes. Maybe the scouting department, they also need to provide some kind of report to the performance, maybe. So these kind of connections are the ones that is going to simplify your work when you explain, because then everyone on that department, they will know, I am here, I'm on the scouting, my role is to go and check out new players for the team. I know the profile of the players that my team is looking for, but I also know that my role and my responsibility is to provide a report every weekend, every month, whatever is the way that you work, to the sports director, to the technical staff, to the performance. You decide it. But once you have everything clear, then it becomes really easy in terms of communication, because everything will work around communication. So once you understand this, and the decision-making framework is simplified into these terms, there's no way that someone is going to get confused about governance, because it's really that simple. It's the way things are done. So how do you do things? Organizational charts on one side, on the other side, merge everything with the vision and the mission of the club, and then specify the objectives and the roles and the relationship between departments. So each department, they need to have their own strategies, their own roles, their own responsibilities. They need to be accountable. Probably going to have a head of scouting in this example, and the responsibility of that person will be to merge all this information, make this relationship directly to the technical staff, also to the sports director, so that the sports director then can go to the board and explain exactly what is being done. We go back to the episode in 10 seconds. Just before you go, if you think we are adding value, please subscribe to the channel and share this with people that you think they are also going to take value from this. My main role here is to help you guys, so if you think I'm helping, please subscribe. Thank you. Let's go back to the episode. So understanding governance, leads us to MCOs, multi-club ownership. And this model is very related to exactly what we spoke, because they also create within the model different departments and different levels of responsibilities as well. So let me try to explain this in a simple way. So MCOs, they work in, imagine a big organization where they have a lot of clubs in different continents, different geographies, and their role is to work as a community. And this will save money in terms of human resources, in terms of the adaptation that a player takes from one side to the other, because then the syllabus, the methodology, everything is very similar. Although the clubs are in different locations, everything becomes very similar. And these are some of the benefits that a club that is within an MCO model, they will take advantage of that. So the benefits are, of course, you get into a community of clubs where you're going to be exposed to different partners, because then the partners, they might migrate from one side to the other. You're going to get exposed to different stakeholders, maybe new departments, and these can have in different proportions, of course, because this can have a bigger impact on a smaller club than on a bigger club that might have more resources, they might have more departments, so they are more used to this kind of syllabus. But maybe on a smaller club, having the possibility to get knowledge coming from another continent, maybe a more development continent where people are more used to these kinds of strategies they need to implement at certain stages of the clubs. You can even have on an MCO group, you can even have like a department as it's an expert into developing clubs on the initial stages, and then you might have another department, a department that is more focused on the mature side of the business. So the mature side, the mature stage of the club. Once the initial stages are done, because of course if you think about, so let's take Red Bull as an example. Red Bull, they have Red Bull Bragantino in Brazil. They also have Red Bull in Leipzig, but they also have the Salzburg. And they are in different locations, but they migrate players from one side to the other. They migrate coaches from one side to the other. They migrate even scouts. They migrate probably technical directors. So everyone within, and they have more clubs, but within these three clubs that I've mentioned, they're all getting like a community-based thing within the group, that they are all getting knowledge from each other. So there are good examples and bad examples, of course. If you think about, so Germany is a little bit harder to implement this because they have the 50+1 rule, which basically doesn't allow private ownership for more than 49% of the club. But we have Leipzig, so that doesn't mean that things cannot be done. Things can be done, we just need to understand exactly where we are going with this and what are the advantages that each club can take from this kind of network. I think that when you look at the financial constraints that all the clubs are going now, and recently we had cases now with Barcelona, we have cases with Juventus, and everyone is struggling to get financial sustainability. And then you have a model that can help clubs. Talking about Portugal is quite different. On one side, it's a mature market, so Europe is in a completely different stage when you compare it to other continents. So football is already tremendously popular, and it's very hard for me to understand why can't we be, in Portugal of course, why can't we be more attractive to MCO groups. I'll explain you why. So the rules in Portugal, the legislations, they are very welcoming. If you think about the business perspective, you have certain rules, of course, in terms of we call it the local developed players. So there are rules that you need to implement. But if you want to play with 11 expats or 10 expats, and that's something that for investors they might have, you might have power in their decision and an impact, of course. We are very welcoming. And then, of course, we have a record of development players that is very hard to find anywhere in the world. We are, on the investor's perspective, of course, we're not the expensive country in Europe to start a business or to start this kind of partnership with clubs. But then if you think about the development stage, either by developing players from the youth, the Portugal nationals, or if you think about buying a player, developing the player, and then sell it and resell it, I mean, probably there's no other country that has the power that we have. And this is why, for me, it's so complicated to understand. Why can't we be positioned in a place that people will recognize us as the main point of entry in not only in Europe, but as a main stakeholder of MCO group network? So if you think about that, the other day I was speaking to someone and I was explaining to them, because they were saying about Benfica and the way they develop players and the values that then they resell it. I mean, I was saying, look, from the top 10, I think was even 50-50. 5 of them were local players. And then the other 5, they were not local players. Like Enzo Fernandez, Darwin Nunes, they were in club. Enzo was like 6 months. Darwin was 2 years, I think, not even 2 years. So the power that we have, and that's because we have an educational path, we have coaches, we have methodology, like with the technical periodization. I mean, we have so many differentiators in Portugal that it's very strange for me. Why can't we be part of these MCOs? Why we're not attracted? I mean, I think we have less than 90% of all the professional clubs, they belong to an MCO. And I'm sure about what I'm saying. 90%, I would say even 95%. So that means that only less than 10% are being impacted for this kind of model. I mean, I've told you before, I think this is a game changer. I think this can create a path of revenue streams, a path of human resources, a path also for business sustainability and profitability as well, that it has the power to be a game changer. My objective here is, of course, to get more questions, because I don't have all the answers, but get more questions on the table, starting to get people to think how can they impact their own reality. And then, of course, if you think that maybe you can create a larger impact, go ahead, implement these kind of strategies, see where you can develop strategies on your local club, see how can that impact in a bigger institution, and probably things will start changing in the coming years. So that's the main thing here, and that's why I think that Portugal should also be on the vision of these kind of groups. I think they are on the vision, they are just not attractive as they should be. Regardless of the challenges, it doesn't matter if it's Portugal, UAE, or any other country, you're gonna have challenges, that's for sure. So regardless of the challenges, we need to think about if you have two main things. If you have the talent, and then if you have the passion for the game. If you have both in your hands, well, it's gonna be way easier for you to implement all these kind of strategies. So today, we spoke about governance, and I hope that this big word, stronger words, is now simpler for you. If you think about governance, I mean, we need to think about a few things, a few crucial elements that we discussed, and I want you to keep that in mind. If you think about communication, of course, then governance is very keen on transparency, accountability, and of course to have a decision-making framework. And these will now be connected to the next episode, which will be more around strategic planning and business plans, and how these two concepts also relate with each other. If you think about this, hopefully you're going to be able to then implement these kind of strategies, whatever is the strategy that you need to implement in your club. But now you understand, okay, but when I'm doing this, don't forget the 5W2H that we spoke before on the last episode, but start connecting the dots, start connecting the episodes, and start implementing these strategies into your reality. Because once you have these, you get a clear notion about first of all, you get a clear notion about the different departments, their roles, their responsibilities. On the business plan, you start thinking about the mission and the vision of the club. On the strategic planning, you're going to start now delving into, and we're going to speak more about the 5W and 2H on the strategic planning, because then you start you start having strategies, and you're going to start by who, when, all the answers that we've discussed before. So we go in there, and you're going to start implementing them. So when you start implementing, one element of governance that is very important, and it's very connected to strategic planning as well, is not only the implementation, so the actionable part of the plan, but it's also the monitoring and then the evaluation. And when you do this, then you need probably to adjust, because sometimes things, you think you are on position A, you want to go to position B, there's a path in between. This is the path that we are designing, but in the way, things are not straight. You don't make a straight line. Sometimes you need to go from one side to the other, and then eventually you're going to start, but maybe when you monitor, when you evaluate, you're still not quite on point B, but you're still somewhere there, but you need to make adjustments. So maybe you need to adjust, and then you restart the process and say, okay, now we're starting on point A, we don't want to go to this point B, we want to go to point B1, and now you want to make the path. So it's these kind of challenges that once you understand all these organizational perspectives, the behind the scenes that I like to speak about, maybe they will resonate with you. So before you leave, I want to give you a challenge. As always, I like to end the episodes with a challenge. Again, questions, okay? I want you to think about your reality. If you are working in the club, it might be easier for you. If you're not working in the club, it might be a little bit harder, but you can think about your club, because probably you're going to have a clear notion about the financials, how does the club is behaving on the structural side of things, on the business side of things. And I want you to think about all the strategies that we spoke, and all the things that I think that can be implemented, all the tools that I gave you. What is the strategy that you would choose? I want you to think about these. Either if you work or if you don't work, imagine that you're working. What would you do to differentiate yourself from these clubs? Think about this. I will see you on the next episode, hopefully. Again, if you think that this is something that is adding value to you, please leave a message, leave a comment, get in touch with me, share with other people, subscribe. And if you think we are adding value, of course, do that. To end, if you would like to have any kind of sample PDF, if you would like to discuss with me, just drop me a message. I'm more than happy to help you. And I have some basic PDFs. I can send it over, like organizational charts, all these kind of strategies that I speak here. So if you think that this can be something helpful for you, drop me a message, and I'm more than happy to help you. Okay? Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye. Take care.